I'll kick off with something a little bit different today. Hopefully this guy's gonna hit the runway and not me. Yep. So we had our session as planned. Put it back to me. Hi. So session went as planned, eerily as planned, because my prediction of 60% of the team performing and 40% questionable turned out to be spot on this week, really through coincidences rather than anything else, because we had 40% of the team away. One guy's on a 2-week cruise, and the other was in Melbourne for the weekend and didn't make it back. So, however, of the team that were here today, we got off to a good start. So they actually put in a bit of effort, some thought. There were some quite good ones. There's one form that we're going to create on the customer service side, which is going to make things much easier, reduce issues with rework, give them faster turnaround, more clarity for clients from the beginning. So it's with the embroidery side of their business, and there's a lot of details and things that they need to get, uniforms, logo placements right. Their current process for that is causing them a bit of drama, and they do a lot of it. So just one simple little thing, we're just going to kick off with easy wins. So that one, we're just taking an existing form that they've got from another part of the business and tweaking that. We've also got some simple stuff around one issue they had with workplace health and safety compliance that's popped up recently. Easy, simple, quick fix, and just implementing some basic processes around managing that, making sure that we're compliant with a particular piece of equipment that they've got. And we had a really good look into continuing with the business owner with those KPIs, the business KPIs. The challenge that he's been having is that there's so much happening in this business. There's a lot to measure. There's inventory levels, there's there's gross profit, supplier margins for such a massive range of products, from power tools, hand tools, uniforms, lubricants, nuts and bolts, stationery, and that's just paints, fuel additives. there's just all kinds of stuff that these guys are stocking and providing for their customers, and they're for all types of different industries, and there are different, very, very different profit margins across all of the different types of products. And one of the things that we're really trying to, and we will eventually get to the point where we've narrowed it right down and refined it, but it's a combination of identifying the most profitable product lines that sell in the highest volume with the best gross profit. And there are thousands of products individually. However, fortunately, they have quite a good inventory management and ordering system, electronic, and it has a lot of information inside of it that is fairly well structured. Even some of the reporting, we can pull profit by stock keeping unit, or SKU as they call it, which is basically by an individual product line and category and type. So we can get data on all of those individual things. We can see sales by salesperson, we can see revenue, we can see profitability by salesperson, by product line. Probably the problem that the business owners had in trying to set these KPIs up is the fact that there's so much information and the system is already set up to produce reporting on what would be considered standard key performance indicators for business. But there's just too many of them, and they're not all relevant in practical terms for what we're trying to achieve here. And so what he's partially been battling with is information overload and too many choices. So what we're doing is just narrowing it down to the very basics. And so we're going to start off with just the very simple things that matter the most, that we want to focus on first, which again is coming back to the sales team and the sales team's focus. So the way we're going to approach the KPIs for this business and this client is a slow build out by focusing on the things that matter most. So we've picked 5 KPIs that we want to focus on immediately and set baselines for to start with. And those are, they're intertwined, but they're kind of sort of separated by overall business outcomes and sales rep specific outcomes. Because as we were going through looking at the data, we've realized that there's a really big imbalance in terms of revenue generated and the number of customers between the 2 sales reps. One of the sales reps has got 69 customers, and she services them brilliantly, and her turnover is way through the roof. Really, it's good, healthy turnover, and she's consistently achieving targets. Our other salesperson has 27 customers. Now, this is an individual who's been with the company for 4 years. Now, admittedly, the other sales rep, when she came over, she actually came with a good network herself and bought a fair few clients and sort of built up her customer base with BizGears really quickly. Now, the other guy, who was supposed to have a great network, also should have been bringing people into the business, but hasn't really, and has been in fact handed a few of the business's traditional clients, long-term clients. So we have agreed that we need to set some new client acquisition targets for our sales rep who's underperforming. Now, this brings in a whole other challenge for us, in that a typical business owner, a typical small business owner would look at that and say, right, you're my sales rep, go out, get some new clients. The reality is that the majority of sales reps just aren't dynamic enough to produce brand new clients out of thin air without having a process to follow. And we've already had feedback from our sales rep that he's asking for presentation tools, and these are things that the business should have and we need to develop. But what we're also going to need to develop is an entire sales process from cold contact all the way through to converted brand new client. So that involves putting together some form of a sales pipeline and what we think that's going to look like, or could or should look like, and then starting to develop things like profiles for what does the target client look like. We don't even have that kind of documentation. So the business owner and I are going to be working on that over the next week or two to really narrow down, and we're going to do that with data. We're actually going to look at the profiles of the clients who are ordering the most. We have the highest turnover with most amount of products, highest amount of revenue, highest amount of gross profit, and look at a couple of other sort of soft variables around how easy they are to interact with, their decision-making processes and things like that. And then we're going to use that as a guide for our salespeople to focus in going out and approaching new businesses to offer BizGears services to. Then the next steps get into what's the approach, what's the cold approach, how are we going to do that, what's that look like, what's the follow-up to that. So this is going to be really interesting because we're actually going to build a new client prospecting process, and we're going to do that with the engagement of the team, and between the sales reps, business owner and myself, hopefully we're going to come up with something that's going to be effective and get the job done. And we've made this a priority. So while we're doing, in the background, we're tweaking some of the business processes. So we also looked at one of the other tasks from our operational plan was to do an analysis of, there's a library that already exists of a few how-to videos, procedural videos for some of the administrative tasks of the business. They were made 3 or 4 years ago. We know that a couple of them are out of date. So the first step was to go in, do an audit, find out what we actually had those video procedures created for. There were only 13 of them, but they're for pretty key functions within the admin area, so they're valuable, but there's a few of them that we know are out of date. So we're also now going to go through, do a bit of an audit and look at which ones need to be redone, which is part of the process of just streamlining the back-end operational processes that I was mentioning in last week's video, to make sure that as we're going and winning new clients and selling more to existing clients, that our operational processes are going to support smooth delivery of the promises that we're making on the sales end. So starting to get interesting, or more interesting now that we're getting into the nitty-gritty and the detail, and we should have some firm base KPIs set in those sales areas. The areas that we're just going to start with 3 real simple things. One is just simply monthly turnover. Now they're already monitoring that, but they're not doing it in a proactive way. We agreed today we're going to put a whiteboard up. The sales team are in there every day. We have a sales meeting every week. So we're actually going to create a whiteboard that has the progressive target each month for each of the salespeople up on that whiteboard, so they're aware of how they're tracking for the month, with their target set in front of them, so that we can see as we're having sales meetings where they're up to, how they're tracking, and make it visual for them. The other thing that we're going to focus on is number of appointments per week. That is another KPI that we're going to make visual on the whiteboard, and we will be introducing for one of the salespeople targets for approaching new clients. So they're going to be tracked initially. They're the key things that we're going to focus on for the sales team. From a business point of view, we're really just wanting to start off by getting in the habit of doing monthly comparables, this month versus the same month last year. So in terms of revenue and gross profit. So we're just setting baselines for that. We're going to start getting into the habit of monitoring those on a monthly basis. And the reason we're doing month this year versus last year is because of seasonality. So if we were just comparing this month to last month, it's not accurate in a business like this, because different months, different times of year, you get different turnover rates. However, the same month the year previous will give us a good indicator of how we're tracking and adjusted for seasonality. So we're going to start on that as well. So I will give you an update